Evening and welcome to the Pompey Politics Podcast Prime Minister's Question Special, where we ask the questions when the Prime Minister and the politicians give no answers. I'm Ian Tiny Morris.
And I'm Simon Sainsbury. Good evening, Ian. Good evening to our audience.
Indeed.
If you haven't spoiled yourself and already watched PMQs, take a little bet with yourself if that's your thing. Maybe start some sort of bingo of who says what, who actually answers a question. Maybe we should start coming up with those. I think we should do that. But
possibly, let's dive. Shall we dive straight in and see whether this week is the week when a question will be asked and it will be answered? We will journey in hope.
We'll see whether there's two excitable commentators. Don't forget, if you are watching us, that you can change how you're watching us, and please do make sure that you give us a like, follow, or subscribe, and a comment. But please do join the conversation. We're really keen to hear what you've got to say. Let's go.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. An attack on Britain's Jewish community is an attack on all of us. And Mr. Speaker, I'm pleased to say that London ambulances have now replaced the Hatzola ambulances and that the NHS will pay for the permanent replacements. We're also accelerating our social cohesion plan to strengthen our British values of tolerance, decency and respect. Mr. Speaker, we're also strengthening our communities by extending Pride in Place, announcing the locations of 7 new towns and delivering over 300 new school-based nurseries. This is investment in our high streets, more homes and action to support working people with the cost of living. Mr. Speaker, today we will also celebrate the installation of the new Archbishop of Canterbury. It's a key role in our national life, and I wish her every success. This morning I had meetings with ministerial colleagues and others. In addition to my duties in this House, I shall have further such meetings later today.
Smith. Leader of the Opposition, Kemi Beno.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I asked the Prime Minister 6 questions last week, and he didn't answer a single one. He has a duty to this House, Mr. Speaker, to answer the question. Let's see if he can do better this week. I'll start with a simple one. Will the Prime Minister approve the licences for Rosebank and Jackdaw gas fields in the North Sea?
Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, under statute, that is a matter for the Secretary of State, as she knows, because it's the same arrangements that were in place under the last government. Licences were granted. They were then struck down because of the defects in the process of the last government. But, Mr. Speaker, oil and gas is coming out of the North Sea 24/7. It will be part of the energy mix for many years to come. We fully support all existing oil and gas fields throughout their lifespan, and in November we made changes to extend to allow neighbouring fields to be exploited. But we need to take control of our energy prices. The only way to do that is through renewables. The party opposite used to make that argument. One of their senior figures in 22 said this: it's investment in nuclear and renewables that will reduce our dependence on fossil fuels and keep our consumer costs down. Who was that senior figure? The Leader of the Opposition.
This is not the day to be thrown out with a 2-week break coming. Kemi Beno.
Mr. Speaker, we can have renewables and oil and gas. He says it's a matter for the Secretary of State. He says it's a matter for the Secretary of State. I thought he was the Prime Minister, and he loves to hide behind legal process every single time. I wonder, Mr. Speaker, what a Director of Public... What? Have I...
Order. Mr. Yeltsin, you don't want to test my patience, I'm sure. Kemi Beno.
Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister loves to hide behind legal process. I wonder what a Director of Public Prosecutions would make of the defence. Sorry, I can't produce my WhatsApps. My phone's been stolen. The Jackdaw gas field could be up and running before winter. All that gas would be used here in the UK to heat 1.6 million homes. That is enough to power Norfolk, Suffolk and Essex put together. So will the Prime Minister approve the licences, or is the Energy Secretary running the government?
Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, legislation has been passed. It's absolutely clear that the quasi-judicial duty under legislation rests with the Secretary of State. I really think if she's going to put this challenge to me, she needs to read the legislation. That is the legislation that they applied for 14 years. It's exactly the legislation that they used to put the licences in place, which were then struck down because the process was defective. But, Mr. Speaker, let's be clear, when Russia invaded Ukraine, energy prices doubled. The 12-day war, oil prices hit £100 a barrel. In the last 4 weeks, because we're on the fossil fuel roller coaster, everybody has been held to ransom. The only way forward is to go further and faster on renewables. And the leader... Mr. Speaker, the leader of the opposition's approach is to outsource our foreign policy and let the US decide whether we go to war, to outsource our energy policy to Russia and Iran and let them set the price of energy. I will never do that because it's not in the British national interest.
Okay, I'm going to pause it there. So,
I think he answered the question.
are you shocked?
Well, I am. We've been doing this a few weeks now, and it's not been a pattern, has it, that a question was asked and answered?
I mean, to be fair, the opening question was a closed question. It required a binary answer of yes, no. And as is typical with Starmer, he responded with an explanation of a process and pointing out that actually the process that she'd been in charge of when the previous government was so crap it had to be redone.
Yeah, well, there was a little bit of that kind of...
So a bit of point scoring.
Well, a bit of point scoring in terms of, and some of it never quite made sense because it's exactly the same process that the previous government used that didn't work. Well, which is it? Is it the same process or is it a different process?
It's new
But
and
I think
improved.
it's new and improved, and it's somehow different but remains the same. So I don't think we ever, I guess our holy grail, and at that point we'll both throw down our heads, say it's mic drop and walk off, is when a question is asked and somebody says, the Prime Minister says yes or no, and leaves it at that. So that's the holy grail. But I think, this is a continuation, isn't it, of the whole kind of energy debate of whether in the current situation still or accelerating or reopening or creating some new oil and gas opportunities in the North Sea, as well as pushing forward from renewables, it is the way forward. And I guess it's allegorical of our politics at the moment, that it seems like you either have to nail your colours to climate change is a myth, let's burn some more elephants or lions and use as much fossil fuel as we can, or we can only use renewable energy, or we should rub ourselves with woad and huddle around an open fire. So but it was almost answered.
It was. What he didn't do was make any case about why, because depending on who you listen to, there are people commenting as to whether actually there's any point in reopening the gas fields, because they wouldn't actually make that much difference to global prices. Whether actually there's that much actually to draw out of them, the fact that they would be private, so they wouldn't be the output wouldn't be coming to the UK, it would be sold on the open market. So it wouldn't, from the claim about security, but also the kind of look, is it actually really, could you actually get them up and running, and is there enough to draw out
Yeah.
And will it come to us? It's not like a long straw that comes straight into Milford Haven and then into our grid.
Yeah.
So, but that point not being made, it's the process stuff. So interesting. So let's have some more.
Yep.
Mr. Speaker, he is hiding behind so many people. He is the Prime Minister. He can make this decision today. He can. He can. He is so weak, he's the first person to be pushed around by the Energy Secretary. Let me remind him, Mr. Speaker, let me remind him who is on my side. The unions, yes, GMB, they're on my side. Tony Blair. Mr. Speaker, Renewable UK, the very people that he's talking about, they are saying drill in the North Sea. Centrica, Octopus Energy, even Labour MPs. Yeah. Let me quote the Labour member for Pembrokeshire who says, offshoring our carbon emissions might give a sense of moral superiority, but it is simply impoverishing our communities. Yeah. We agree. So why does the Prime Minister think he knows better than everyone else?
Yeah. I'm going to have one more go. The legislation, the statute, the law prescribes the decision maker. They know that. They should be embarrassed that she doesn't even... She's attacking me without having read the legislation. The legislation sets out who the decision maker is. It's the Secretary of State. It is not the Prime Minister. It has to be the Secretary of State, and it's a quasi-judicial process, exactly the process that they ran for many years. And, Mr. Speaker, oil and gas is part of the mix for many years to come, but we do need to get onto renewables. But, Mr. Speaker, we're discussing this because of the war. We need to de-escalate. And that is, yes, we are. That is why I stuck to my principles not to join the war and to act in collective self-defence. I appreciate the Leader of the Opposition doesn't get that. She wanted to jump into the war without regard to the consequences and then do a mother of all U-turns, and now she's stranded without a thought-through position. And, Mr. Speaker, when she was asked at the weekend whether she approved of the war, she said, that's a difficult one. It certainly is if you've got absolutely no judgment.
Mr. Speaker, I'm going to let the Prime Minister in on a secret. He's the Prime Minister. He can change the legislation. Hiding behind the Energy Secretary is pathetic. Mr. Speaker, under his Labour government, we buy half the gas we use from Norway. Last year, Norway's Labour government drilled 49 wells in the North Sea. That's what Norway's Labour government did. How many did Britain drill? 0. For the first time since 1964, under his government, Britain drilled no wells. Why is energy security the right policy for Labour in Norway, but the wrong policy for Labour in Britain?
Mr. Speaker, so now our attack is if you changed and passed some different law, you could take the decision which she's challenging me today for not taking. It's absolutely ridiculous. Now, all that would do is to slow the process down. Oil and gas is coming out every day. There's a mix of that and renewables. But it's really important, Mr. Speaker, the most important thing to get energy security is to ensure we de-escalate this war. I know where I stand on this. We are not joining the war. She wanted to join the war. She didn't think through the consequences, and now she doesn't know where she stands on the most important issue facing this country at this time.
Mr. Speaker, the Norwegian Prime Minister is doing what is right for his country. If only our Prime Minister would do the same. Stopping all new drilling in the North Sea was a reckless promise when he made it before the election. In the middle of a global energy crisis, it is catastrophic. Experts are predicting a £300 rise in bills in July. Approving new licences would show he was serious about cutting bills. Why won't he do it?
Mr. Speaker, because of the action that we've taken, bills are coming down by up to £100 household bills next month. Then they will be capped for 3 months. That's what we're doing to protect households across the country. And who voted against it? The Tories and Reform, because they just don't get the impact on working people that we will protect.
Mr. Speaker, he says bills are coming down. They are higher than they were when he came into office. And he's talking about, he's talking about what they're doing to help with energy bills. Families and businesses will suffer from the spike in energy costs because of his decisions. He could abolish the green taxes on their bills. He could stop the fuel duty rise. We could drill our own gas in the North Sea. What's he doing? He is planning another giveaway to people on welfare. Yet again, he's taking money from those who do work to give to those who don't. First, we had the budget for Benefit Street. Now it's the bailout for Benefit Street. Doesn't this just prove that they've given up being the Labour Party and they're now just the welfare party?
Mr. Speaker, the spike. They're the ones that double spend on welfare, Mr. Speaker. They're the ones with a broken system. And when we tried to mend it, what did they do? They voted against it.
Order. Mr. Dewhurst, you're tempting my patience. Thank you, Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, she talks about the spike in energy prices. That's because of the war, which I say we shouldn't join, and she says we should join without following through on the consequences. And time again, she gets the big calls absolutely wrong. She wanted to drag us into the war. She got that wrong. She opposed taking control of energy security, and she got that wrong. She opposed our decision to cut energy bills, and she got that wrong. And she seriously thinks that'll make her relevant, and she's got that wrong.
Debbie Abrams.
So, did we continue the streak of actually answering a question?
No, we didn't. And we got into that. What do we want? Wrong. What do we want? Wrong. Wrong.
The pantomime.
Oh, and it just, she wanted to go to war. We've done that 3 weeks in a row now. And we're not joining the war in Iran. The people, yeah, for God's sake.
So, yeah, there's some sensible conversations to be had about what are the right or wrong policies, or what the options are with regard to energy security. But
yep,
I don't hear anyone making any case one way or the other of how much impact drilling whatever is left in the North Sea and in the UK continental shelf, what impact that would actually have on energy prices or on household energy prices. And I just don't understand why that point isn't being made, because it would surely either back up or undermine the argument. Well,
it's nuanced, isn't it?
Oh no, it's too sensible. Sorry,
because she referenced Norway there, you know, and Norwegian oil and gas is managed, run, operated for profit by Norway PLC.
Yes.
So and this is the piece where I do scratch my head, and as you say, it is nuanced, because it would be granted to such and such, and it would be sold on the open market. Well, only if that's the term you grant the license on. You know, if we look at power, the French model of nuclear power plants is that the government gives a license to a provider, the provider builds the plant, and the government agrees to buy the power off them for a gazillion years at a going rate. Well, surely you could do something similar with the drilling license, which is, you can have that. You can get up and running in 6 months. You know, here's the agreed price, and we'll buy everything you produce as the government. It can't be that difficult.
Yes. Somewhere amongst all the point scoring, there's a sensible debate to be
had. There's a sensible discussion to be had. And once again, we have got to the heart of the matter when, unfortunately, you as Kemi Badenoch and me as Sir Keir Starmer, whoever would have thought it. On with the show.
No, who we got next? So we got Sir Ed Davey next, I think.
Leader of the Liberal Democrats, Sir Ed Davey.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Can I associate myself with the Prime Minister's remarks about Monday's despicable attacks on the Jewish community? Anti-Semitism has no place in our society, and given the potential links with the IRGC, I hope the government will move faster to prescribe them as terrorists. And Mr. Speaker, as a former Secretary of State for Energy who granted licences for oil and gas exploration, can I make a judgment on this argument? The Prime Minister is actually right, and the Leader Opposition is wrong. Mr. Speaker, the law is clear and I believe in the rule of law. Mr. Speaker, just before President Trump posted about his supposed negotiations with Iran on Monday, traders made hundreds of millions of dollars of extra bets on oil futures. This looks like Donald Trump giving his mates insider information so they can make themselves richer, while his illegal war in Iran makes everyone else poorer. This looks like corruption of the very worst kind. Does the Prime Minister share my fear that Trump is making his war decisions based on what enriches himself and his friends rather than what makes peace in the Middle East?
Prime Minister.
Well, can I thank him for his verdict? At least he's read the law that she obviously hasn't read. But, Mr. Speaker, in relation to the traders, we've seen the activity there. What I can say is that all of my decisions are based in the best interests of our country, and that's why I've decided that we will not get dragged into the war, unlike the Leader of the Opposition, and I've decided we will act in collective self-defence of ourselves and our allies. And so I comment on my actions, and they're the principles behind my actions.
Red David.
Mr. Speaker, if Trump's war pushes up energy bills by £500, the Chancellor's very narrow plan simply won't cut it. And while I don't fall for the crocodile tears of the leader of the Conservatives, who cheered on this illegal war without a thought for the impact on people's energy bills, and the government is right to reject repeating Liz Truss's blanket cheque approach. But, Mr. Speaker, the government can't ignore the millions of families who don't get benefits, who already face a cost of living crisis. So can the Prime Minister at least guarantee to all those families and pensioners that he won't let their energy bills go up by £500 this year?
Let me say my verdict. He's right about the Leader of the Opposition wanting to join the war, and she's wrong about that. At least he's read the legislation that I'm being challenged on. It does help. It does help. At least he's right. It was the leader of their party that said, let's all go to war without thinking through the consequences. We're now discussing the consequences. Mr. Speaker, in relation to the support, we've made clear the principles, the approach we'll take. We'll keep this under careful review. Energy bills for households are frozen until are capped until the end of June. It's really important I make clear that that's whatever happens in the conflict, because I know the public are concerned about that. We will then put in place appropriate support and look at how we put the principles behind it.
Durham Paffey.
Thank you.
So, that was an answer.
It was an answer, but the answer was we'll keep looking at it. And it's difficult, isn't it? Because I believe the Kemi referenced the kind of, more money for those on benefits, and Sir Ed. So the government has already announced that, effectively there will be protections in place for those who are on benefits, as and when the energy bills spike up. But in answer to Ed's question of what about those people who aren't on benefits, that one was very neatly dodged with we'll keep everything under review.
Yeah, I mean, I guess on one hand you could argue that things, if the President of the United States wakes up and changes his mind, then lots of things can change very, very quickly.
Well, and that was the gotcha question, wasn't it, from Ed? Which is that, and again, without going down that particular rabbit hole, Trump is sounding more and more like the mad granddad, mad uncle, just mad. And the kind of that sort of rather foolish narrative of oh, is he looking to make him and his mates rich? No, I don't think he is, but I do believe he's being played like a banjo by people behind the scenes. I don't think he's making his own. Well, I mean, for me, he's literally becoming incoherent as a leader.
Yeah, but if he's not, to be fair, someone clearly is because
somebody is.
Someone that has an inside track and knows what's going on.
Yeah, and it's that thing. If you surround yourself with sycophants and and kind of second-rate talk show hosts, Pete Hesketh, the whatever he is of war, is a Fox News anchor, and if you're surrounding yourself by toad-faced weasels, then don't be surprised if some of them are tipping the mate of a mate of a mate some kind of information. But yeah, the danger is the world's largest superpower is kind of being run by somebody who is
not in control of their faculties.
He's not, no. And I think that whole thing around obviously Joe Biden was showing some signs of frailty towards the end there. But I don't think Trump is any better, in terms of mental capability. And it is scary. And obviously, you're I and we'll all agree with Sir Keir Starmer on this one, making flippant comments about the President of the United States just isn't the behaviour of a UK Prime Minister, even if the President of the United States keeps making childish and flippant comments in front of and about other heads of state.
Yeah. Did you pick up on the taunting from Leader of the Opposition, Kemi Badenoch, basically telling Sir Ed Davey not to keep sucking up? I don't know if you heard that.
I heard something in the back.
Yeah, that was Kemi Badenoch.
Ah, brilliant. So I did hear at the very start, somebody stood next
classroom, wasn't it? It was like, oh, stop.
Yeah, stop toading up. Yeah, but there was somebody, and I don't know who it was. There was a female voice just as Ed started, who was obviously close to the microphone. Here, and it's like, calm down. Like, oh God. So that was sort of
that was Daisy Cooper, Deputy Leader of the Lib Dems.
She's awful. So no, it's
right. So I know we normally only include leaders of parties, but because
have we got a guest star?
So because this one leads very, very nicely into the contribution from Nigel Farage, you'll see why I've included it, but also because it's from the Labour MP for Southampton Itchen, so it's quite local. So I thought I'd test the boundaries and include it. So it's Darren Paffy. So let's play that one.
Speaker, and can I associate myself with the Prime Minister's remarks on the terrible Golders Green attacks? Mr. Speaker, rebuilding trust and integrity in our democracy matters deeply to my constituents in Southampton. Shamefully, it doesn't matter at all to some, particularly the senior Reform UK politician who has been convicted of taking bribes from Russia. Does the Prime Minister agree that there has never been a more urgent need to defend our country from hostile forces who would try to undermine our democracy? And will he set out what concrete steps he is taking to crack down on foreign interference in British politics?
Prime Minister. Can I thank my honourable friend? He makes a powerful point. Mr. Speaker, the Communities Secretary will make a statement later on the Rycroft review, which sets out the stark threats posed by illicit finance. I can tell the House we will act decisively to protect our democracy. That will include a moratorium on all political donations made through cryptocurrencies. I hope that will be welcomed across the House. There is only one party leader who has shown he will say anything no matter how divisive, if he's paid to do so.
Nigel Farage.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Smash the gangs. That is what the Prime Minister promised us. Trust me, I will stop the boats from coming. But 70,000 later, and 1,000 in the last week, and too many young men that pose a threat to national security, is it not time to admit Smash the Gangs has been a total abject failure, along, frankly, with most of his other policies? Isn't it now time, he told us, as summer approaches, what is Plan B?
Well, Mr. Speaker, this is from the man in the party that voted against giving law enforcement counter-terrorism style powers to tackle it. So he wants the grievance, he doesn't want it sorted. And he has absolutely no judgment. He again said, let's join the war, let's all go to war. I want to make it perfectly clear he wants the war. A week later, screeching U-turn, we don't want to go to war. And he says, trust his judgment. Mr. Speaker, it's hard to take anything he says seriously. He promised lower tax, and now reform councils are hiking council tax by 9%. In Worcestershire, this is what he said about Worcestershire. He said, we took control of a virtually bankrupt council. I wish we hadn't bothered. He asked for people's votes, and then he abandons them. Reform don't want to solve problems, they only want to exploit them. I am thankful for the opportunity to change this country for the better. He says he wishes he hadn't bothered winning councils, because they're an absolute disgrace.
So that's it for our clips. But I saw from your reaction, you could tell why I left it in. That was teed up rather elegantly, wasn't it?
Yes, yeah. They almost, there was that was rather that was rather put together nicely, wasn't it? But again, same old from Reform. But I just think if you want to actually change the narrative, you have to engage. And his answer tonight, that's the second week running where Nigel Farage has asked a question and all he's done is said, oh, Nigel Farage wants to join the war, and Nigel Farage is a wanker, and Nigel Farage doesn't know anything. And look at Worcester. Oh, Worcester.
Paraphrasing slightly, but yes.
Oh, wanker. And you just think, I'm sorry, but
whether you agree or not that it's an issue for lots of people. And it's something the government are spending lots of time dealing with. So what is the sensible answer? What is it? What are the counterpoints that you make that disprove that argument? What are your, or say why you have got control of it?
Absolutely. It was one of Rishi's 6 or 5 or 7 stop the boats. And, in a 3-word acronyms, it was smash the gangs. And, if the numbers aren't where the numbers should be, then it's a valid question to ask. And as you say, whilst it is not the biggest issue that faces the country, it's an issue for a lot of people. And just ignoring it with that childish, he wanted to go to war.
It's not going away. If anything, the politics of the last 5 years has told anyone anything. But
9 years. I'd argue 9 years.
Yes, you're right. Then crossing your arms and hoping it would just bugger off. It's not going to. Are we going to get to a point where the PM is just going to say war?
What is it good for? Absolutely nothing. Say it again. My old friend Edwin Starr. I met him. I met him once at Twickenham. Long story, but which we won't go into. So I think once again there was almost the hope of a question being answered. Then it wasn't. The vast majority boils down to poo stink you smell. You wanted to go to war and I didn't, which means I'm clever and you're not. And an absence of bungee cords from Ed Davey. And we will live in hope of one day that yes or no answer might come. But tonight, you've been listening to the Pompey Politics Podcast, Prime Minister's Question Special. I've been Ian Tiny Morris.
And I've been Simon Sainsbury. Thanks very much, everyone. See you soon.
Enjoy your Easter.
Remember, the deadline to register to vote in May's local elections is 11:59 p.m. on Monday the 20th of April. Use the QR code on screen to take you to the Electoral Commission's website, where there are further details about registering to vote, as well as information where you can confirm where you would need to vote if you're voting in person on the day. Other deadlines apply to register for postal or proxy voting. Don't forget, if you're voting in person on May the 7th, you'll need to take photo ID to be able to vote. If you're not sure what photo ID counts, scan the QR code on screen or go to the Electoral Commission's website, where there are further details, including information about how to apply for a free voter authority certificate, which you will be able to use to vote in person on the day. Don't forget to like, follow and comment on Facebook, or comment and subscribe on YouTube. Find us on all the social media platforms: Facebook, X, YouTube, Threads, LinkedIn.